Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video I'll be talking about mental health, specifically mental health that I've struggled with over the years and steps that I've taken to know that I've struggled with it and how I currently deal with them and strategies I put in place to help me from getting to the point of slipping into them really badly. So I've struggled for a long time with trauma. I dealt with trauma as a really young child from abandonment issues, and then I also didn't have a stable upbringing on top of that, and I was severely bullied through primary school and high school. So with all of these things going on, it made me think a lot of negative things and feelings, and I didn't realize at the time, but it did have a combination of anxiety and depression, because when I was young I just kind of thought with what had happened that I was kind of accepting the stuff that I was thinking and feeling. So I would worry a lot about how people perceived me, what they thought of me, of what I would be saying. Had a lot of negative thoughts and feelings about myself. I didn't really think very highly of myself. I thought I was worthless, I wasn't lovable, I wouldn't be accepted. I withdrew a lot from people. I wasn't very social. But in the same time, I also wanted to please people. I didn't want to let them down. I always apologized. I always worried about everything. I worried about how I would be perceived, what people would think of me. I also worried about school. If I was doing well, if I was not doing well, and I took this into work as well. Like, for a long time had these constant thoughts of worrying and stressing over every little minuscule thing. And it was the same thing with my negative feelings about myself. So didn't feel that great about myself. I didn't feel like I would fit in, that I would be accepted. And I always thought when I got to the point where it was really bad that people would be better off without me, and sometimes I'd get to the point where if I was really low, I would take those thoughts and feelings and I would self-harm, and also feel like I needed a way out. And I realized afterwards that they don't help with anything. They don't even block out the pain. They don't block out the feeling, the thoughts, anything that I was still struggling with internally. They just transferred it onto something else. It was the same with my over anxiety when I was very anxious. If I had no way of controlling this, I had shortness of breath, I had the shakes, I'd had sweaty palms, I'd fidget a lot, I'd start feeling edgy, and then it would get so overwhelming that I'd end up having a panic attack, which combines all these emotions for me. And on top of that, shortness of breath, sometimes I even forget to breathe, and uncontrollable crying. And I just panic soars through me, and then I just have this overbearing sense of worrying about nothing but about everything at the same time. And at the time, I didn't realize that these were something that could be diagnosed, because I struggled with these for such a long time with not really getting any help. I tried talking to people about it, but no one really seemed to understand what I was going through. And also a lot of people kind of just said, oh, well, you know, they just said things that didn't help me and didn't validate what I was going through. So it just made me feel even more alone. And it took a really long time for me to go, this is enough. I can't deal with this anymore. I don't want to deal with this anymore. But when I did, I went and saw a GP, got a test done, and then went and saw a professional to talk to them about it. And I spoke to them and told them everything that I was going through, and they diagnosed me with anxiety and depression. And then they helped me with techniques that I could use to get through them. A lot of them didn't really work for me personally. I found techniques for myself that worked, because I find that everyone is different. They can give you a guide of what you can do, and I did use them. But I find that a lot of it does come from within. You have to do a lot of the work yourself, things that you find are going to help you and help make you get past whatever's going on. Because again, everyone is different, and everyone goes through and feels things differently. So I found, and this took a lot of work, it didn't happen overnight. This is something that has taken years for me to do. I think probably around 8 years or something like that, for me to finally get to a place where I'm figuring out steps that I can take, where if something does happen, I can go, okay, I need to do something now before it gets any worse. So a big thing for me to start off with was acceptance. Accepting everything that has happened to me in terms of trauma. Accepting that even though it has happened, I'm not going to let it control me, I'm not going to let it define me, and I'm not going to let it take over anymore. I'm not going to give it the power that it had over me in terms of my negative belief system. And from there, and that took a really long time, just to even get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm ready to just be okay with the fact that this has happened, and now I'm going to put it to bed. And from then, I also had to do a lot of self-love, self-care. And this is still something that I'm doing ongoing, because I find that you never stop learning more about yourself. You never stop growing, and you never stop, if anything, you just learn to love yourself more. And it took a long time for me to get to a place where I was comfortable enough with who I am as a person, and that the things that I was thinking and the things that I was feeling negatively about myself, my depression, were just thoughts and feelings. And same with the anxiety that comes up and the worrying about what people think of me. I again had to put it into perspective. It doesn't matter what people think about you. Not everyone's going to like you, but you just need to learn to accept yourself and love yourself for who you are, and that the right people the right people will stay in your life. And other things that I've been using, so techniques that I've still been doing on the daily. For my anxiety, it's making sure I stay grounded, because a lot of the things that I used to do was think about the past constantly, and I would just worry about that, and then I'd worry about the future and constantly think about the future instead of, and this is stuff that you can't control. You can't control the past because it's already happened. You can't control the future because it hasn't happened yet, but you can control what is happening right now in this moment. So I try to remind myself that constantly and focus on my breath, focus on what's around me right now, focus on what I can control in this moment, and meditating also helps with that as well. Another thing that I do for myself is using apps that are going to help me. So there are 2 apps I use, and one of them gives you like motivational quotes. Another one is a quote app as well, and it just has positive affirmations of who you are, and I find that they just help me keep that positive mentality of who I am as a person, because there are so many good qualities of who you are as a person that we seem to not remind ourselves daily of, and we need to, because you aren't these negative beliefs or these negative thoughts that you think you are. You aren't worthless. You're not a failure. And once you start accepting these things and start turning them into positives, your outlook on life becomes so much different as well. So I also have a good social circle. I find that this is really important as well. Making sure you have people around you that are positive, that provide a positive impact on your life, and are there to help you become a better person. I find now if I find that someone is toxic or isn't going to help me grow or become the person that I want to be, I just don't have the time for it anymore. I accept myself enough that I just want people around me that are going to help me and are also going to help me know if I'm going to fall, if I'm going to get to that point where I'm not being the best person I can be. At the end of the day, you still need to hold yourself accountable as well, and just keep learning and growing and doing that process yourself. Another thing that I do is just sit with myself. Just sit with the thoughts and feelings that I have. Sometimes they are negative, and I let them in. And it's actually something that I got told to use as a technique, and it's something that has helped me tremendously, because I can just sit with them and tell myself it's just a moment, and I'm accepting it. I'm accepting that this is happening. I'm accepting the thoughts and the feelings that are coming, and then I say, okay, but this moment will pass. It's not gonna last forever. And then I also analyze in a positive way of why it could be happening. Has there been something in the moment or in the past that has potentially triggered it? And if there has, then I find out whether or not I still need to do some work on that. And I find that this has really helped me a lot. This is something that I feel is sometimes it's going to stay with you. I still occasionally get anxious, and I still occasionally get to the point where I could be becoming depressed, where I lose interest in hobbies, and sleep, like my insomnia definitely can affect that as well. But it's learning when you're about to have these thoughts and feelings, and knowing what you can do to help yourself in these situations that I have found have really helped me. If at any point though you're at the point where you can't help yourself get out of these, then definitely go and talk to someone else about what is going on for you, and talk to a professional and get them to help you sort out what's going on internally. I still do that if I need to. I find that talking to people does help, but I also know that I find that just knowing what works for me, especially to help me keep grounded and remind myself of the person that I am, helps with these negative limiting beliefs and helps me be on the right path to continue growth and change. And I just really hope that whoever's watching this can get some things from what I've been going through. Just really hope that this video could potentially help someone else. And I just want you to be reminded that you're not alone. You are loved. And most importantly, to always love yourself. No one is going to love you better than you. All right. Take care, and I'll see you guys on my next video.